Quebec City in winter is defined by stone streets under snow, frozen river views, and a skyline shaped by fortified walls and steep cliffs. Old Quebec remains active through the cold months, with its compact layout allowing much of the historic core to be explored on foot, even in winter conditions. Château Frontenac rises above the St. Lawrence as a constant visual anchor, while Dufferin Terrace stretches alongside it, offering long views over the river and ice-covered shoreline. What matters here is how winter changes the pace rather than stopping it. Museums, viewpoints, and public spaces continue to draw visitors, often with fewer crowds and a stronger sense of seasonality. Places like the Museum of Civilization and the Royal 22nd Regiment Museum provide indoor balance to outdoor walking, while elevated viewpoints such as the Observatoire de la Capitale shift attention from street level to the wider geography of the region. Beyond the fortified city, winter travel extends outward. The Plains of Abraham function as open urban space even under snow, while Montmorency Falls and nearby natural sites transform visually as water freezes and trails quiet down. Further from the city, destinations like Mont-Sainte-Anne and religious landmarks such as the Sanctuaire de Sainte-Anne-de-Beaupré remain connected to Quebec City's winter tourism pattern, combining day trips with the historic core. This creates a clear structure, a compact historic city that remains accessible in winter, surrounded by landscapes and sites shaped by cold weather and distance. Together, these places form a layered travel experience, moving from fortified streets to open plains, frozen waterfalls, and mountain terrain. From here, the focus shifts to these locations one by one, looking more closely at how each contributes to Quebec City's winter travel landscape. Old Quebec forms the historic core of the city and remains one of the most intact fortified districts in North America. Its layout reflects centuries of military, political, and commercial use, with stone buildings, narrow streets, and defensive walls shaped by both French and British rule. Much of what defines the area today comes from its role as a strategic settlement along the St. Lawrence River, where elevation and access to waterways mattered as much as architecture. The district is divided into Upper Town and Lower Town, connected by steep streets and dramatic changes in elevation. Upper Town sits on the cliff, enclosed by city walls and dominated by administrative, religious, and military structures. Lower Town developed along the riverfront, historically tied to trade, ports, and everyday commerce. In winter, this vertical separation becomes more noticeable, with snow-covered streets emphasizing the physical distance between the two levels. Movement between these areas is part of the experience. While staircases and winding streets remain an option, the funicular provides a direct link between Upper and Lower Town, especially useful during icy conditions. Originally built to simplify access between the river and the plateau, it continues to function as both practical transport and a visual reminder of how the city adapted to its terrain. Château Frontenac stands at the edge of Upper Town, overlooking the river and Lower Town below. Its presence is less about individual details and more about scale and placement, acting as a visual focal point from multiple angles across the city. In winter, its outline contrasts sharply with snow-covered rooftops and the muted tones of the surrounding historic buildings. Running alongside the chateau, Dufferin Terrace extends outward above the cliffs, functioning as both promenade and viewpoint. The wooden boardwalk traces the edge of Upper Town, offering uninterrupted views of the St. Lawrence River and the frozen landscape beyond. Even in cold weather, it remains one of the most active public spaces in Old Quebec. Set directly on the terrace, the Toboggan Slide introduces a temporary but well-established winter feature. Operating during the colder months, it reflects how seasonal activities are layered onto historic spaces without permanently altering them. The slide adds motion and sound to an otherwise still winter scene, blending recreation into the setting of fortified walls and river views. Quebec City has a compact but well-developed museum scene, and in winter these indoor spaces become a practical part of the travel rhythm. Cold temperatures often shift the day toward shorter outdoor walks balanced with longer interior visits. Museums in and around Old Quebec allow visitors to stay within walking distance while still engaging with the region's culture, history, and contemporary themes. Among them, the Museum of Civilization stands out for its focus on people, society, and lived experience rather than traditional object-driven history. Located near the Lower Town waterfront, the museum relies heavily on temporary exhibitions, meaning the visit changes significantly from one season to the next. Titanic. The human story approaches the Titanic disaster through the lives of passengers and crew, emphasizing personal routines, decisions, and social realities rather than technical details of the ship itself. The exhibition centers on individual stories to explain why the event continues to resonate today. Nin explores Anishinaabe culture through language, sound, and contemporary artistic expression. The exhibition highlights how language connects identity, memory, and resilience, using immersive elements to place visitors inside a living cultural framework rather than a historical overview. Finding Refuge focuses on forced displacement through the personal testimony of a Rohingya refugee. Audio narration and visual installations are used to convey daily life in refugee camps and the ongoing process of rebuilding identity in exile. Crowds, Humans in Interaction examines how people behave when acting as part of a group. Through interactive stations, the exhibition looks at crowd dynamics, collective decision-making, and how ideas spread, from physical gatherings to digital environments. In other words, Quebec serves as the museum's long-term reference exhibition on the province itself. It traces Quebec's history through themes of encounters, territory, and transformation, combining historical objects with contemporary questions about identity and society. This Is Our Story focuses on the realities and histories of the First Nations and Inuit peoples of Quebec. Developed in close collaboration with Indigenous communities, the exhibition presents contemporary voices, historical experiences, and future perspectives through themes of identity, resilience, and cultural continuity. My Place is designed primarily for families and younger visitors. Set within a house-like environment, the exhibition uses everyday objects and interactive spaces to help children explore how homes, routines, and familiar items shape personal identity and a sense of belonging. A special thank you goes to the Museum of Civilization for being part of this video through a media collaboration. Thanks to their support, it was possible to explore the exhibitions more closely and share a deeper perspective on Quebec's social history, identity, and human stories. The Royal 22nd Regiment Museum is located inside the Citadel of Quebec, an active military installation that still plays a role in Canada's armed forces. The museum focuses on the history of the Royal 22nd Regiment, tracing its origins, missions, and daily life through uniforms, medals, personal objects, and archival material. Rather than presenting military history as a distant timeline, the exhibits emphasize continuity, showing how the regiment evolved alongside the country itself. Visiting the museum is closely tied to exploring the citadel, as access to much of the site is organized through guided tours. These tours move through key interior spaces of the fortress, explaining both its defensive design and its ongoing military function. In winter, this guided format becomes especially practical, offering structured access to indoor areas while providing context that connects architecture, history, and present-day use. A special thank you goes to the Royal 22nd Regiment Museum team for being part of this video through a media collaboration. Thanks to their support, it was possible to explore the museum and the citadel more closely, and share a clearer understanding of this living military site and its historical role. The Observatoire de la Capitale offers a different perspective on Quebec City, shifting the focus from street-level detail to the broader urban and geographic layout. Located at the top of one of the city's tallest buildings, the observatory provides panoramic views over Old Quebec, the St. Lawrence River, and the surrounding regions. In winter, these views highlight the city's relationship with its landscape, where frozen waterways and snow-covered neighborhoods define the season. Inside, the experience is designed to be more than a simple lookout. Interpretive panels help place landmarks, districts, and natural features within a wider regional context, making it easier to understand how the city is structured and how it developed. This combination of elevation and explanation turns the observatory into a useful orientation point, especially for visitors encountering Quebec City for the first time. A very special thank you goes to the National Capital Commission of Quebec for their media cooperation, which made it possible to feature the Observatoire de la Capitale in this video and present a clearer, elevated view of Quebec City's scale, layout, and winter landscape. The Plains of Abraham form one of the most significant open spaces in Quebec City, both historically and geographically. Stretching along the edge of the old city, the plains function today as a large urban park, but their layout and visibility are closely tied to the city's past. The area is best known for the 1759 Battle of the Plains of Abraham, an event that reshaped control of the region and left a lasting mark on its political and cultural trajectory. In winter, the plains take on a quieter but still active role. Snow-covered paths are used for walking, cross-country skiing, and seasonal recreation, while the open terrain provides long, unobstructed views toward the river and the city's fortifications. The scale of the site becomes more apparent during colder months, when vegetation fades and the landscape opens up visually. Near the Plains of Abraham Museum adds historical context to the site. The museum focuses on the events, people, and consequences surrounding the battles fought here, helping visitors connect the open landscape with the stories that shaped it. It serves as a compact but informative complement to exploring the park itself. As winter deepens and the year draws to a close, Quebec City becomes noticeably more animated, particularly during the holiday season. One of the most visible signs of this shift is the Quebec German Christmas market, which brings a distinctly European winter market atmosphere into the historic core. The market is spread across 5 different locations in and around Old Quebec, rather than being concentrated in a single square. Wooden kiosks appear along streets and plazas, offering food, crafts, and seasonal goods, while lights and decorations extend the experience across multiple parts of the city. This distributed layout encourages walking between sites, turning the market into a route rather than a single stop. During the New Year period, the market contributes to a broader festive rhythm, blending local traditions with German-inspired elements. Combined with snow-covered streets and historic architecture, it reinforces how Quebec City's public spaces adapt to winter, not by retreating indoors, but by reshaping outdoor life around the season. Just beyond Quebec City, several destinations expand the winter experience beyond the urban core, often within a short travel distance. These nearby sites show how nature, pilgrimage, and outdoor recreation remain closely tied to the city's tourism pattern, even in colder months. The Montmorency Falls are located only a short drive from the city and stand significantly higher than Niagara Falls. In winter, the waterfall partially freezes, creating dramatic ice formations at its base while water continues to flow through the center. Suspended bridges, stairways, and viewpoints remain key features of the site, offering different angles on the falls and the surrounding gorge, depending on weather conditions. A few kilometers further along the St. Lawrence, the Sanctuaire de Sainte-Anne-de-Beaupré represents one of the most important pilgrimage sites in North America. The basilica has drawn visitors for centuries, originally connected to accounts of healing and devotion to Saint Anne. Today, it functions both as a religious destination and as a cultural landmark, welcoming visitors regardless of faith. In winter, the scale and interior of the basilica become especially noticeable. The large nave, stained glass, and decorative details provide a quiet indoor pause, contrasting with the surrounding snowy landscape. For many visitors, the sanctuary visit is combined with nearby natural sites, reinforcing how spiritual, cultural, and geographic elements overlap in this region. Further east, Mont-Sainte-Anne plays a central role in winter tourism outside the city. Known primarily for alpine skiing and snowboarding, the mountain also supports cross-country skiing, snowshoeing, and other cold weather activities. Its proximity to Quebec City makes it a common day trip, linking urban sightseeing with outdoor recreation. More remote and quieter by comparison, Chutes Larose offer a nature-focused stop for visitors willing to travel further from the main tourist routes. The site is known for its forested trails and waterfall viewpoints, which take on a different character in winter. However, during periods of heavy snowfall or icy conditions, some sections of the trails may be partially or fully closed for safety, making access more limited than in warmer seasons. Together, these nearby destinations show how Quebec City's winter travel landscape extends outward, combining dramatic natural features, long-standing traditions, and seasonal outdoor activity beyond the city limits. Quebec City in winter reveals a layered travel experience shaped by history, landscape, and season. From the fortified streets of Old Quebec to museums, viewpoints, and nearby natural sites, the city maintains a steady rhythm even in colder months. What stands out is how urban life, cultural institutions, and surrounding destinations continue to function together, adapting to winter rather than retreating from it. This balance between walkable historic spaces, indoor cultural stops, and short trips beyond the city defines winter travel here. Each location adds a different perspective, whether through elevation, interior warmth, open landscapes, or seasonal activity, creating a clear picture of how Quebec City works as a winter destination. If you enjoyed this documentary-style journey, consider liking the video and subscribing to Wanderway for more travel stories that focus on place, context, and how destinations truly function.